Hey, Steve, I know it's early in training camp, but ideally, with a roster this deep, do you have an idea as to how deep you want your rotations to go? And to follow on that, just with all the attrition you could face with the virus, and as you've seen that before with teams, I guess how important is it during camp to try to have mix and match different guys with lineups, just so that if you are presented with that situation for a game, there's some familiarity with the guys there, and it's not a baptism by fire.
I mean, I think you're leading to something that's really important this year, which is versatility, flexibility, depth. We could find ourselves in a lot of different scenarios. So it's going to be important that we have a lot of guys available to play. We would love it if our guys have a familiarity. I'm not sure how much of that you can gain from a training camp. Hopefully enough that it's good, but I think you're thinking along the right lines. We never know what's going to happen with the virus or our health or whatever it may be. So having as many able bodies is super important. And then second of all, I couldn't really answer as far as how many, in a rotation, but I do think the rotation will change itself, a lot, like you said, with whether it's injuries or COVID or whatever it may be. So don't have an answer for how deep our rotation will be, but hopefully a lot of people get a lot of looks this year.
Next question goes to Greg Logan of Newsday.
Steve, I don't know if you can comment on this, but James Harden did not show up for the first workout with the Rockets. There's all the rumors out there about a trade. Sean has said he's talked to players about, potential trades and so on. How do you deal with that elephant in the room?
I guess we let the elephant be. I mean, I love our guys and hopefully they all feel really valued and wanted and respected. We have so many guys that bring so much to the table. So, when I'm in the gym with them every day, I feel fortunate. So hopefully they feel that and they don't feel like we're looking out the window at greener pastures, because we love what we have here. And hopefully our behavior every day amidst that and guys feel comfortable, valued, supported, and striving for something individually and collectively.
Next question goes to Brian Lewis of the New York Post.
Hey, Steve. A follow-up to that, but more of a philosophical question. I mean, obviously you played for some teams that were star-studded and you were involved with a Golden State team that was obviously had a number of star players. In your idea as a coach, is having 2 stars and depth, is that more preferable, or does that give you more of a security blanket versus having 3 stars and less depth? Do you have a thought philosophically on that?
I don't. It's a great question because it's almost impossible to answer. I think, depth obviously gives you an opportunity to support and to have versatility. Your star players, but a lot of it comes down to how good is your depth and how good are the 2 stars versus the 3 stars, and how's the chemistry and all those ancillary factors that really are the details that make it work or not work or allow you to get to the end of the road. So there's pros and cons to both. I don't really think about it because I love the team we have. I love the group we have. Trying to find minutes for all the guys we have is a great headache to have, and that's all I'm focused on right now.
Next question goes to Malika Andrews with ESPN.
Hi, Steve. First, I'm wondering if everybody participated in practice today. And then secondly, I'm wondering if you've gotten a better understanding over these last few days of whether or not you see these preseason games as an extension of camp or more as a precursor to games, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, a couple guys had little bumps and bruises today, but basically had everyone here and doing well. And the preseason games are so important this year. I think in particularly for us, it's a new group. We only have 2 of them. We have guys who haven't played, guys who are in the bubble, but then we also have guys that either didn't play in the bubble or guys like Kevin and Kai who had some injuries before that. So, Kai, I think, has played 20 games, over the past season. Kevin obviously has been out for 18 months. So every chance we get to play is important for us, I think, to form that commonality, that connectivity that I keep talking about, and give us that common experience. Right now, that's something we're really short on. And so we definitely have to use the exhibition games to find that. I'm not sure what that looks like yet, but we're taking them seriously as far as giving our guys reps and experience together on the floor, in a dress rehearsal.
Who didn't practice, and is that a one-day thing, or is that expected to be multi-day, like Nick Claxton?
Yeah, Nick's probably multi-day here. He that's the one. I mean, who else was banged up? TLC had a little hip pointer. Who else was there? Sorry, I forget. Someone had a calf or hammy or something that, like, day to day, other than Nick. So everyone's in pretty good health, other than Nick, who's probably weeks. So hopefully, fingers crossed, he'll be back, and because he's put in a lot of work himself.
Next question goes to Christian Winfield with the New York Daily News.
Hey, Coach. Piggybacking on Nick, can you kind of talk about how we got to this point with this diagnosis for him? And on top of that, as it pertains to a young player at this point in his career, can you talk about how he fits into the overall, I guess, picture for the Nets moving forward, especially given how many players you guys have in the front court and obviously he's going to have to be developed, right? So how does he fit into the wider scheme of things that you want to go? And secondly, obviously we saw the NBA say that they're putting out some new guidance on potentially finding teams for resting guys on nationally televised games. I'm curious as to whether that changes your approach as it pertains to back-to-backs. I looked at a couple of them, and you guys have a couple back-to-backs where there's a nationally televised game on the second half of that back-to-back. So how are you guys going to navigate that challenge?
I think for Nick, he is a development player, but how long that prevents or includes him from being in the rotation is really up to his health and his development. He's I think a great modern five. In theory, he's a mobile big who can handle the ball, make plays. He's developing his shooting, but I think when nowadays when people are going with a small ball five or a more mobile five, that you can't that you don't have to hide on offense theoretically. A guy that can either shoot it or can make plays for his teammates. And Nick's mobile enough to handle and pass, so he has a future, and we're really excited about his development if he can get healthy. And that's kind of been his struggle here for a year and a half. But he's worked hard. He did everything he could to get his shoulder ready to go for camp. I watched and encouraged and was really impressed with the effort he put in. So this is just a bad break for him that he's got a little tendinopathy, and hopefully it's something that resolves quickly. As far as the back-to-backs, it's so early. It's hard for me to say, but we definitely want to, do the right thing and play our players national TV games when they're available to play. It's hard for me to judge or to make a comment on it until we get to those moments in time and to see where people are physically, mentally, emotionally, and how the group is, and make those evaluations. But hopefully they all fit into the recipe that makes the league happy. And for us, obviously, when our guys play, we're happy.
Next up is Michael Grady from Yes Network.
Hey, Coach, in terms of, the patient approach to watching the chemistry develop and seeing guys get on the same page, and your experience, I know each team is different, but roughly how many games do you feel like it takes before guys are really on the same page? Is it 30 to 50, somewhere in that ballpark? Where do you feel that lies?
Great question, again, because I'm not sure I can answer it. I think some teams come together quickly, some teams take time, but I do think that there's an extra challenge for a new team that's a contender. When we're talking, making a deep playoff run and trying to contend for a championship, you just don't have those common experiences that are so valuable in those moments deep in the playoffs. So we can't overcome that with experience because we don't have time to go through playoff battles and gain that. So what can we control? And so for us, that's, really setting our sights on some goals and principles that we control, that we can gain, that, like I said, connectivity, that's fighting spirit, but also cohesion and ability to execute at both ends of the floor. So we're going to be behind it a little bit as far as common experiences. Having said that, we have a lot of experience in our locker room, and we'll overcome it by trying to control the things that we can control, like executing, fighting, having that connectivity. And so we're trying to build that now, and that's a process that's going to take us through the end of the season and hopefully with a lot of success.
And last question for Coach goes to Tom Dowd with BrooklynNets.com.
Hey, Steve, you added Bruce Brown in that trade a couple weeks ago. How broad do you see his range in terms of defensively and guarding multiple positions? And also, what do you see from him beyond that defensive reputation and what he can do on the other end?
I think he's a defensive player at this point. The offensive game is something he's still developing, so we have to be patient with him as he continues to work on his shooting and playmaking. But he competes. He's a good defender, and he can grow defensively as well. So he's got an opportunity to continue to get better both sides of the ball and make an impact. But we have to be patient with him. He's a player that is coming into a team with a lot of talent, and for him to find a role, I think really it comes down to his continued development, because there's so many talented players out there and such a deep roster that he's going to have to use that competition and that depth as a way to really put pressure on himself to develop, and then we'll see, because he's clearly a good defensive player, and he's got to develop into a shooter and a playmaker to go along with it and complement that. But his effort's been outstanding, and I have high hopes for him.